In my previous video, I gave you a theoretical overview of why players' games are broken. Now I want to go a bit deeper and explain the mistakes you are making with what I call the implied odds fallacy. So most players understand this concept of implied odds because quite honestly, it's a pretty fairly simple concept. In most elementary poker books, it's explained using a hypothetical situation. For example, let's say you have $200 behind you and your opponent has $200 behind them. Your opponent raises to 10, you look down and you have pocket twos. So you decide to call because you make the argument that you're getting the proper implied odds. 9 out of 10 times you're going to lose that $10 because pocket twos don't necessarily flop the best, but around 10.8% of the time, you're going to flop a set or better. And the argument is this call is okay to make because the one time you do flop a set, you can make 200. So you're losing 90, but the one time you win, you have a set and you stack your opponent. Now, this stupid example is one of the reasons so many players' games are broken. This type of example is what players use to say, I'm getting odds. This example is great to explain the concept of implied odds, but it's not great for developing an active thought process at the table because it doesn't explore all the other issues with this decision. Examples like these are what often lead to a broken thought process because what's really important is taught either later or not at all. Players make so many mistakes when it comes to the concept of implied odds because of the following. First, there is no discussion of our opponent's range, which is the most important factor. If this player raises a very wide range of hands, then most of the time you flop your set, you probably aren't going to get paid off, and you and your opponent need way more money behind to make this profitable. Second, there is no discussion of our ability to extract maximum value when we actually flop a set. Extracting max value is without a doubt an art. So many players will flop really good hands, get super excited about flopping a good hand, and bet without thinking. They don't stop, consider the information in front of them, and then take the best line or course of action to extract max value. This means most players never actually even have a shot at getting that 200 when they do flop a set. Really ask yourself, how many times have you flopped a monster and actually got everyone to put all their chips in the middle? It doesn't really happen that often. Third, there is no discussion of the dumb mistakes so many players make when they don't flop a set. Those, I don't think he has anything, let me turn this hand into a bluff sort of thing. You also see this happen in players a lot with suited connectors, where the intention of the hand was to call and flop really well, but they flop decent. So they have 6-7 and they want the flop to come, 5-8-9, but instead it comes Jack 3-7, and they convince themselves they have a good hand and end up losing on, their entire stack. Fourth, there is no discussion of the fact that your odds of improving are not necessarily your odds of winning the hand. There will be times where, you flop a set and the other person flops something better and you lose anyway, that reverse implied odds scenario. So you have improved, but you don't actually win. And fifth, there is no discussion of the effect of these calls on your bankroll or your personal comfort level. People make implied odd calls, but they're focused on the here and the now. They aren't thinking long term. 9 out of 10 times you lose, but it doesn't mean that those times will be consecutive. You could, lose 100 times in a row technically. $10 seems like a teeny bit amount of money, but it significantly adds up over time when people misuse this concept. And here is the thing, these are just big picture mistakes, things that players don't realize. But the average player isn't even there yet because their thought process isn't systemized. So they are getting simple things wrong, like not knowing how many chips their opponent actually has before they make the call. They do this not because they don't know they aren't getting the odds, they do it because they aren't systematic in their approach and forget. In order to make a call with a speculative hand, you need to be competent enough to understand the multiple factors that make that play profitable over the long run and be competent enough to extract the maximum amount of value. So many players aren't able to do this. This is why their games are broken. That is why they won't make money playing this game. And listen, building a comprehensive thought process isn't easy as reading a book or watching a single video. It calls for rebuilding your thought process layer by layer over time. I've had this channel for over 6 years, and I could see in all the comments and all the questions the same mistakes being made over and over again. If you want to take poker seriously in 2016 and you want to really transform how you play, head over to schoolcards.com/the-fix to learn more about my 8-week course. I promise you, you're going to see poker in a completely different light. If you have any questions at all, please reach out to me, Blake@schoolcards.com.